As we all know, the coronavirus situation has struck around the world, impacting tens of millions of people on a personal and on a professional level. Imagine the volume of legitimate businesses, personal and family-related matters that are resulting from this virus, based on how it has disrupted the flow of our daily lives, our working lives, our health and our well-being, and of course our finances. It is a very serious matter for thousands of small businesses as well. It's also a serious matter for mid-sized and large corporations alike. It impacts everyone differently, based upon your age, your working life, where you live, whatever your underlying health conditions might be, and numerous other factors. So the coronavirus situation by itself has touched hundreds of millions of people's lives, many of whom will be forced to deal with various matters or situations or injustices that need resolution in an expedient fashion in order to move forward in their lives. Imagine the boon that it will be for the legal industry with the volume of disputes that the virus will create, all of which somehow will need to be resolved to the satisfaction of the person or the business that has been harmed, personally or professionally. And imagine if you do elect to attempt to resolve your matter with the assistance of a lawyer via the legal process, given the massive volume of matters that the legal system will now somehow have to deal with. Rest assured that if you do use the legal process to attempt to resolve your matter, it will likely take that much longer due to the massive backlog of matters and situations that will all have to somehow be handled. For those of you that have used the legal process at some point in your life to resolve a matter, I'm sure you are aware of how frustrating the process can be, how expensive it can become rather quickly, and how slow the process typically moves. That is why in some matters, even minor matters, it can take years and tens of thousands of dollars, assuming that you get satisfaction to your matter. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. You can spend a boatload of time and money and still not come away with a positive resolution. This is all the more reason to learn this process and how it works and how it could help resolve your matter faster, perhaps for less money than the traditional legal process. And if it doesn't work for you to your satisfaction, you can always retain a lawyer and pursue that route if you wish. As I've said before, unless you have money to burn and years to wait to resolve your matter through the legal process and the court system, I sincerely urge you to learn about how this process works and how you can apply it in your specific situation to garner economic justice, hopefully faster, for less money. And if it does not produce the result you are hoping to attain, you can always retain a lawyer and use the legal process. The complexity of your specific matter will help you decide if this process is even appropriate to attempt, because it might not be, or if you would be better served by retaining a lawyer. The choice, of course, is yours. As a reminder, before I share how this basic process works at a high level, let's recall the very first quote from the book, The Power to Get Justice. People and organizations are both funny and disturbing. In many instances nowadays, they will often avoid, ignore, or they won't move or pay attention until they believe they have to move or pay attention, even when they know they should. Garnering resolution and justice requires action, honesty, confidence, unshakable steadfastness, and proof that you have been wronged in some manner or that you could be if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen. But even when these things are in tow, in order to garner resolution and the justice you seek, it often seems to require a significant consequence of some sort, whether real or perceived by the other side, before the individual or the organization that you seek justice from internalizes and weighs the potential consequences of not responding to you before they will move or act on this or that. The level of the consequence is what drives the urgency that is assigned to your matter. This common thread seems to apply almost universally to all personal and professional environments throughout the world. To ignore this basic truth is simply unwise. Think about this. No potential significant consequence present, no urgency assigned, no resolution achieved, therefore, no justice garnered. Now, the manner in which you use and apply this process is dependent upon the specifics of your situation, the level of the urgency that you need to create, the gravity of your matter, and there are several other factors which would determine how aggressively you would use this process to attain acceptable resolution. Let me provide one last time a basic overview of the process itself, how it works, why it's necessary to bring attention and urgency to your matter, and how through the creation of various consequences that you might present to the other side, if not resolved to your satisfaction, it actually helps create the urgency and the awareness around your matter. Remember, if the other side does not perceive the consequences that are present, whether they're real or problematic to them, the likelihood of them responding and giving you the resolution you're seeking is quite low. So let's again provide you an overview of the basics of the process. The basics of the process of the circle of leverage are linked back to the analogy I made earlier about how we are parented as children. When you ask your child, as a parent, when you ask your child to do something, clean up your room, stop bouncing the basketball, what have you, typically a child does not respond to a parent's first request, nor do they respond to a second request. Magically, most of us as parents bring into our third request a consequence if the child doesn't do what we've asked. Typically, the parent's justification for that is, well, we have to give our children at least the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them the first opportunity to do the right thing. They didn't do it. Let's give them one more chance before we bring down the hammer. The hammer, if you will, the consequence, usually in pattern-specific form, shows up in the third request. I asked you to do this. If you don't do this by such and such a time, then this might happen, or then this will happen. The child picks up on that and says, oh, gosh, Dad, you didn't need to threaten me. And the father or the mother is sitting there going, I didn't? I asked you nicely twice. Why was it that I had to give you a consequence before you acted? We have all grown up in our lives in the same parenting style, basically, irregardless of whether our mothers raised us, our fathers raised us, our grandparents have raised us, or our cousins have raised us. Naturally, we all wait to find out what the consequence is in many instances, which once we find out what it is, then we assign urgency. The basic underlying premise of the circle of leverage is it engages a consequence in order to create urgency. And you do this by triggering those things I call key engagers: fear of loss, curious insecurities, competitive desires, and desires to be a player. How do I trigger those four emotions? If I'm dealing with the person down here in a matter, and this person is a manager or the director of claims or a teacher or what have you, usually the organization I have my beef against can be a substantial organization. They don't want me up here. They want me down here. with the people that are very low level, which, by the way, rarely have the power to make decisions. Those decisions are made up here, but they don't want you up here. They want you down here. The concept of the circle of leverage is to leverage that person by creating leverage around him or her, by going upstream, sideways to them, and presenting your situation, your issue, your matter to more than just one person, which is what they don't want. They want you again down here in the basement, dealing with the people who essentially have no power. You're going to this person saying, in regards to my matter, which is blankety, 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 blank, I am sending this communication to you, and you. Because amongst the 7 of you, 4 of you, 6 of you, 9 of you, I'm looking for resolution in regards to my matter, which is blank, blank, blank. And in the event that I can't get resolution, I may be forced to escalate this further by doing blank, blank, and blank. The fact that this person sees that you've gone to their boss's boss, their boss's boss's boss, and their sideways leverage means that you are engaging this person's fear of loss, curious insecurities, competitive desires, and desires to be a player. Because the most important thing to this individual on the day you show up is not you, and it's not your matter. It's the relationships that they will fight to protect. That's what you're doing. You're using invisible leverage with the relationships that they have built to bring these other people into the loop with a matter that's supposed to be dealt with here. And by in sharing your issue with these other people and the potential consequences if it's not resolved, that creates the potential of a consequence for these people, which creates urgency about whatever your matter is. Now, obviously, this is the very, very rudimentary basics of the circle of leverage process. You'll have a multitude of questions about how to use this process with regard to your situation and the seriousness of your matter. This is designed simply to increase the number of eyeballs on your situation with the hope that it will help increase the resolution to your matter for not so much money. Again, this doesn't work all the time. Neither does the legal process. What the legal process does give you is a much higher costly bill, even though it doesn't guarantee you resolution. I want to be clear, nor does this. But this is a tool that you can use first before you start spending serious money, again, around whatever your matter is. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this was helpful. And this information is explained in much greater detail on our website, which you can reach by going to www.powertogetjustice.com in order to gain more information about the system itself and to order your copy of the Power to Get Justice book. Thanks again for your time, and thank you for listening.